Doc, I just wanted to spend some time talking through just to Brandon and some of the other new team members, just kind of how we got here and what brought us here in the first place and why we are doing what we're doing, and just the message, the passion behind the message that we continue to communicate day in and day out, because I think as we get further away from our beginning together, sometimes we forget the beautiful story that got us here. And so I just wanted to give the guys the newer members of our team kind of the history of how we've gotten to where we've gotten. And I'll never forget the first time I had a friend introduce me to the AllCore and to you. And I had been on a journey with different journey. It's kind of like what we continue to say now is that the AllCore360 meets us where we are. And I'll never forget that it really wasn't for me personally. It was actually for Jenny, my wife, and just the realization that we were on a pretty long, pretty difficult journey with a neuromuscular autoimmune condition that she was suffering from. And there's nothing she could do to gain muscle. There was nothing she could do to gain weight. She was tiny because of the situation of the neuromuscular connections being under attack and failing. And so I had a lot of wonderful neurologists all around the world that had been speaking into my brain for a couple of years. And then I met you in the AllCore360, and I sat in the machine for the first time, and looked a lot different back then than today.
It really did.
But and I remember you just talking me through everything that it would do for me. In reality, you didn't at that moment in time yet know that I wasn't even thinking about it for myself.
Right.
I was thinking about it for this journey that we were on to try to fix this autoimmune condition that got turned on. And I just wanted to know, is there a way to turn it off? And so, you'll remember that day.
I'm glad you brought that day up, because it's one of those days that I'll never forget either. I'd given that talk, if you will, to multiple clients and patients that had their first demonstration, if you will. And there was a series of things that I made sure that I let the patient know in 10 minutes. And I'd gotten to where it was somewhat of a routine. But when you talk with somebody, you can tell when they're engaged. And you were very much engaged when I started. Okay, that was the deal. This is the difference in my life. And you were paying very close attention. And I thought that was wonderful, because I thought you're hearing, you're understanding, you're grasping, because not everybody did. And now I understand it was your background. You already had the neurology background. You were already exposed to all that. But for those people here, I'm not kidding. At 5 minutes, you turned off. And I lost Matt. Matt went somewhere else in his brain. I didn't know Matt from Adam. And I looked at Matt and watched him, and I thought, here's somebody that could not have been more engaged, that totally went somewhere else. And now I know he went to Jenny. And it's probably one of the biggest rewards I think we've both been able to share through the AllCore is her recovery. We do meet people where they are, and not everybody's an athlete. There's people that are struggling everywhere. And what the AllCore does, it meets you where you're at, because you are reliant on your core for everything you do.
Everything.
So what I can promise you is, if I make your core better, I make your life better. So by golly, that will make your core better.
Yeah.
And it makes, and with Jenny, the neuromuscular aspect of it, we know the muscular aspect, it makes perfect sense. But what it did internally, all those switches, it could help switch on and switch off. It's the way the body was meant to perform. And the problem is, we've never understood that. We come into the world and we don't get a human body owner's manual. We stumble and struggle, and every doctor and every physician, everybody going through life is stumbling and struggle. What's the owner manual? Well, by golly, we got the chapter on it, and that needs to be in the owner's manual. And I'm so blessed that we've been able to help Jenny. But that's why you were here.
That's why I was there.
Yeah.
And that led us on a pretty eventful and pretty beautiful journey of becoming connected with even some of the existing team that was trying to help you to get the AllCore to the next level, and And what I soon realized very quickly as an entrepreneur was that it needed some structure and some help and some manufacturing and some different things that came out of just this passion for what I felt like it was already going to do for Jenny. We needed to do for other people. And the mission the heart of the mission was born between our hearts.
Yeah.
Even before we founded the company together to the AllCore Holdings companies that we founded together to take it to the next level, to take it to what we hope is still millions of people. And of course, since that time, we've seen so many lives touched and changed and so many different things. And even in my wife's story, to be able to finally, if you remember, we had to wait because of her condition was so dire at the time. She had to wait about a year before we could even put her on the machine. And we just had faith during that year that it was still going to work, but we started working on how can we touch other people. And that was such a beautiful journey for me personally to see your heart and your passion. And then I think coming out of that, I mean, your own story, I don't know if Brandon and some of the guys even know your own story of why the AllCore came about in the beginning.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting story, I will say, and I'll share that. And we got a way back. You know, I'm an old guy now. We got all the way back to 18. You know, and I was due to a crazy thought in my mind, I decided to join the Army during the Vietnam War uh, on purpose. And I'm not sure why I did that, and I'm not sure why my dad didn't kick me in the ass that day. But I joined the Army, and not only did I join the Army, they told me the best football team in the Army was the 101st Airborne. I should have thought those are the people that go into war, but I was wanting to go and be in the football team. So that's how I ended up in the service. That's how I ended up skydiving. That's how I ended up breaking my low back. So I break my low back, but I'm young, I'm healthy, I'm airborne. I was just getting out of college football. I'm about as great a shape as I could ever be. And I go into therapy surely knowing, you know, when I'm 18, I think, like we all think, that doctors heal us. You go to the doctor and he blesses you and takes care of you. I go to the doctor. I couldn't be more encouraged. Hey, my back's broke. You need to fix me. I got stuff to do. So we go ahead and get started on the therapy. And immediately the therapy's brutal. I mean, not just brutal, a little bit brutal. It's tear brutal, tearing up brutal. And I wasn't a physician then, but even in my young mind, I knew the difference between here's pain that you kind of get when you exercise, and here's pain when you're messing with things that are broke. And we're messing with things that are broken. This isn't right. But I kept going, kept going, kept going. And finally, I just looked at it. I said, I can't do this anymore. I know this is not right. And he looked at me, he looked across the table at me and said, either you'll continue on with this or we'll discontinue care. And I remember looking across there going, discontinue care? And I just said, I guess we'll need to discontinue care. Out of the drawer comes, this is probably what changed my life. A stamp, non-compliant patient. And I remember thinking, bull crap. I would have done anything to get well. You just didn't know what to tell me. But what it did do was say, the world doesn't know enough about backs. I need to find out. At that time, in my world, chiropractors knew the most about the backs than I knew. I'll be a chiropractor then. I go off into the world, become a chiropractor, not forgetting that damage, always in the back of my mind going, they're not right, but I didn't even know what they knew until I got through chiropractic school. I'm in my senior year in chiropractic school, and this is a sad, funny story, but you know, one of the things we always did at weddings in my family was get in our tuxes, go up on a high dive, and jump off into a swimming pool at the country club. Pretty silly, I know. And I usually was the one I was the oldest brother. I was the instigator and the leader. This is how this is going to work. So we're trashed. I mean, there was some drinking involved, I'm sure. And we all decided to go jump off the high dive. So it was set up so, you know, we weren't going to hit each other in the pool, which even in our state, we knew wouldn't be good. But when I got up and I was the last one to dive, I dove off, and one of my other groomsmen thinks he can swim underneath me and get to the other side of the pool. And he's not fast. And I see him, and I promise you, when you're coming down in the air, there are no brakes. I'm going to hit him. I slammed my head into his leg, and I felt like I was hit a car wreck. I mean, I'm trying not to black out. I'm going through everything I can not to black out in the water. I drag myself up to the edge. And as I pull myself up out of the water, trying not to black out, he is screaming bloody murder, screaming. And the crowd is gathered around him while I'm hanging on the pool, hoping not to die. His femur snapped right in half. That's where my head hit. And the ambulance comes up, pretty much ruined the party. But what happened, I go in, okay, so what happened is I broke my neck. I'm going, holy, this is bad. It could have been worse. I mean, here I am right now. I'm not paralyzed. And we work with so many people that are. I don't want to put my traumas in their basket. They're much stronger than I am. I don't even pretend to be like that. But I was hurt. And I wanted to get some relief. Sure enough, go back to physical therapy. It's been a decade. Surely the medical profession has gotten much better by now. And gosh, Matt, it wasn't just similar. It was the exact same thing. They said the exact same words. It was the exact same exercise, the exact same mistakes. But now I knew better. Now I was a chiropractor. Now I had to go, oh, hold on. Now I see why you're wrong. And now I know why you're wrong. They still continued to hurt me. I quit again. But this time when I quit, I left and said, I'm going to wipe the slate clean. I'm starting from scratch. There's a confusion here, and I need to figure this one out. And that's kind of where that all started. That was wipe the slate clean. I think what happened was we got caught up in so much past information that we accepted that we didn't allow ourselves to expand. So when you could start from zero, and here's what I did.
So that's when you had kind of the mental vision of the AllCore.
Well, yeah. Well, I knew something had to change, and that ends up being quite the story. So let's think of what we had to come up with. And this is what I'm thinking in my mind. I go, if we're going to start over, what do we need to know? And so in my mind, I thought, what is the true survival value of the core? Why did God give me a core? What am I supposed to do with this core? Is it for sit-ups? Goodness can't be for that. So why do I have a core? And I'm going through my mind, what's the survival value of a core? And the value is, it's a big, thick girdle of muscle that protects all these vital organs. That's important. Everything in here we can't live without. We can live without a lot of this. We can't live without this stuff. Is that important? Vitally important. And what's the other thing the core do? It maintains a perfect posture. And this is huge. The maintenance of a perfect posture is the true survival value. When we're born, we're little lumps of flesh. We're getting ready to have a grandbaby. I just had a little lump of flesh the other day. So what happens as a child? They come out, they can't do anything. They're born in a fetal position. They have no spinal control. If anybody'd ever have a child, and here you have, think about how this goes. If you really think about it, we pick that baby and we lay this baby down in a crib face down because we don't want to lay them on back. They're going to throw up. We can't do that. They lay them face down. When you take a body that's been bent like this for 9 months and you do this to it, that's just what we did. We set that baby down like that, stretched that baby out, and it hadn't been stretched in its entire life, which wasn't long. And so it's laying there. What does a baby do? Think about it. What's the very first thing every child ever did? It did this. It's trying to do this. It's doing everything it can to lift its head up off that mattress. It does it over and over and over and over again. And then the next day, we all walk in the room, and that baby with that big old head is sitting up. And you go, how in the hell did that? He developed a curve. This is what's so critical. This developed a curve. What did he do? Now his head is balanced over his shoulder. Head is balanced over the shoulders. When it's balanced, it's efficient. When it's efficient, it doesn't need much muscle control. When this body is so perfect that when it is set up, we've got energy out the rear. But when we do what we do, we drag through our lives because we rob it of its energy. So there's that child. Now it's sitting up. It fascinates us all. His head's as big as his body almost. How does it do that? Well, now that it can be there, what does a baby do? Crawls. It gets up and crawls. And crawling is hugely important. But what really happens? He's supported by his shoulder. He's supported by his legs. And his tummy drops. So now he's not straight across the back. It goes across, and the tummy drops to the hips. That baby crawls around for 2 or 3, 4 months, We walk in one day and he's standing up on the couch. How in the hell did that baby just stand up on that couch? He's not any stronger than he was yesterday. He developed a lumbar curve. Now the head and the shoulders and the hips are lined up. Now he doesn't have to be strong. He's balanced. And so balance throughout our life. That's what this does. That's what we lost. And as kids, I know we all, if you think back, did we not have a basket full of energy bouncing our step? We had this enormous amount of energy. When you get on the AllCore and you get off the first time, for just a moment, it may be a day, a half a day, an hour, you're balanced. And for that moment, that spring in your step comes back and you forget what that was like, but it can come back, and it comes back with balance. And that's all it takes. Our body wants to be balanced so bad that if you treat it right, it'll do it almost immediately. 10 minutes, 3 times a week, to get a spring back in your step. We're so blessed to do that. That's what we do. We do it over and over and over again. How blessed are we? But that's what happens, continuum. And it's the meet you where you are. That's everybody. That really is everybody. Everybody has a core that we rely on. Whether you're a housewife, that's vacuuming or lifting your children or your grandbabies like I'm doing and you're doing. Those are the things that we all live for. Those are quality of life things. The AllCore is here for quality of life. Will it make you a better athlete? Oh, hell yes. It'll make you the best athlete you ever were. How many people want to be incredible athletes? None of us really are that way. 10%, 5% end up going pros. Let's love to watch them. But the rest of us need strength, endurance, balance, and a happy life. And we've been able to see that over and over and over again. Everywhere we've been. It's remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah, it was beautiful the first time to kind of hear the journey for you, because I realized quickly that how this came to you was seemed so simple, yet so true and so powerful. And it made so much sense to me. Immediately, that 5 minutes that I've, went into my own world, which I did. You kind of spaced out for me, where I could hear Scott talking da 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 in the background, but I wasn't with you because I was, I guess, what if started hitting the depth of all this stuff that had been spoken to me. What if this could trick the neuromuscular condition of an autoimmune into turning off or turning back the other way? What if this could trick those muscles into firing properly? And it ended up actually being part of the journey. I mean, there was other things obviously we did. The AllCore is not a end all be all cure all, but there was health things that we did from a nutritional standpoint and everything. But the beautiful thing is that we realized quickly that this whole journey you walk through from birth all the way up, and the fact that our body, against gravity, in time and space, exactly the way God created us, which is phenomenally unbelievable, that it could create and tell the brain that all of this needs to fire while you get on this device that came to you in the whole desperation. They say the mother of all invention usually comes out of desperation, something like that. But the bottom line is, for me, during that moment in time, it was a game changer. And it was a game changer that came out of necessity. One thing that we've been, that's been a challenge for both of us, is the fact that anybody can benefit from the AllCore. And when you try to then take it and make a successful business out of it, which has to have financial longevity, even though our model's a little different, we're trying to make this affordable to get it out to the masses and touch as many lives as we possibly can. But to get that journey and to realize now that from an infant all the way up to 100 years old, we can touch anybody and everybody in between. that's when mentally and emotionally I bought in. I knew I could buy in even if all it did was just change, my wife's life, that I was bought in.
Yeah.
Not to mention you're very passionate, as everybody has seen, about the what the AllCore can do. But then it was so powerful for me, unfortunately, to have to wait a year
Oh, I can imagine.
before Jenny could get on the machine. But during that year, I got to see John, quadriplegic, where we put him on the machine physically, pulling him up out of a chair. And I got to see the brain reactivate uh, limbs and muscles and things that hadn't been active for over 6 and 7 years from a traumatic brain injury. And then we got to see cerebral palsy children benefit from the machine. And then we got to see elite Olympic athletes. And then we got into the military, and we got to see fighter pilots who all of a sudden said, I'm not out for 4 months after I, turned my head wrong, hitting 9 Gs.
You're right.
And we got to see them rehab quickly. And then all of a sudden, I got to put Jenny back on the machine.
That's when that happened.
And to see those changes, one at a time, gain a pound after not being able to gain any weight for 3 years, gain a pound one day and the next day and the next day for almost 9 days straight. And I remember you came and we cried together.
Yeah, I'm about to do it now again.
And it was such a reward. And that's when we were all in. That's when we were all in, not just all those other stories, but we were all in, and we said, what can we do? How can we build this where other people can be touched? Because everybody can't afford to have this machine in their home, and everybody, even clinics in some cases, couldn't afford it. And we built this beautiful model to try to create the ability for people to be able to afford to change their lives, whether it's back pain, whether it's scoliosis, whether it's wanting to be an elite football player at the University of Georgia, where we have a machine. And the journey's been so beautiful. Now we're closing in on almost 200 machines all over the United States, and now all over Europe. And it's super exciting, but we just want to get the message out. And I really think going back and helping our team understand the story is just so powerful, because even in my opinion, the God thing that brought us together in the first place.
Sure.
But now to finally hone in on this message that we both understand from our personal journeys, our journeys that now we've seen literally hundreds and hundreds of lives change, from paraplegics to quadriplegics to Olympians to fighter pilots to everybody in between, a regular mom postpartum, being able to benefit postpartum from the machine that we believe, obviously we can't make claims, but we believe helps not only physically, the pelvic floor, everything else after giving birth, for my own daughter soon, for your own daughter-in-law, in the last 2 days.
Don't know. It's really
so beautiful, and I hope mine's in the next 2 days.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I just have loved sharing the journey together, sharing the story together, and the realization that we are on a goal right now, I know, to change over 1 million lives in the next couple of years. And I believe we're on target to do that. But one of the things that we've discussed many times, and I just want you to kind of walk through it, even for the guys here, if you would, just the not necessarily the deep science, I guess some of the science behind what happens and why we strap somebody into the AllCore, why we isolate them, and how, with the gravity and time and space in a 360-degree rotation, kind of how can it benefit somebody with cerebral palsy? How can it benefit somebody with scoliosis versus how can it benefit an elite athlete? I know many times, and I'll hopefully stir this in your brain a little bit, because I've heard it 1,000 times from you. So, but I know you've repeated it probably so many times, you're wondering who you've told and who you haven't told. But the reality is, you've mentioned this that we come into the world, and even at the very beginning, we're all imbalanced. Right hand, left hand, injury, whatever. So start there and walk us through a little bit of what this would do for anybody.
And that's where to start. Start as a baby. And I had that conversation a little while ago. We came out balanced. When we finally stood up, we were balanced. And then we became Matt and we became Scott, and Matt and Scott became unbalanced. God didn't do it. It's when we got involved. So we have free imbalances that I don't call we're born with, we develop, but we develop how we use our bodies. And almost all of us have it. We've got a very big front to back imbalance. And what I mean by that, the front of our body is weaker than the back of our body. And here's why. When we were born and getting around balanced, we were great. But how are we now? So what we've done is we've taken our back, set it out in front of our hips, and now we've created an imbalance. And that when we do that, our back has to work its butt off to hold up our shoulders. And you know what happens at the end of those days? Oh man, my back, that is how that happens. We work on all day, all day, all day. Now, what happens? It gets stronger. Yeah, it does. We wear it out and we hurt it. Picture this, we do this all day. Do we ever do this? No, this is never engaged. So just as we go through life, we disengage the abs, we engage the back, and we create a big front to back imbalance. We're blessed to have a dominant side. I have to say, that's a blessing. But what happens is, and it's not that the dominant side makes us unbalanced, it's because we decide to just use that dominant side all the time. You could use your other side, but you don't. You use the dominant side. It gets bigger, it gets stronger. There's another imbalance. Those imbalances are transferred from the top to the bottom. Every single bone in the spine has to support that imbalance. And it has to adapt. And that's the stress you put on it. You can't get away from that. And so for the spine and what we're trying to do for the spine, balance ends up being the key to longevity. And here's what we never say, and I think we need to talk about it. We train our body and we train our core in the way we don't use it. And I find that to be the biggest error. And I'm going to talk about that just a little bit, Matt, because what I think happened, and I'm a gym rat, and you're a gym rat, and we got all kinds of athletes in this room. So picture us when we're young. We're 15. We just found out there is a gym. We go into the gym, all excited. Look at that guy's arms. What's he doing? Well, hell, I'm going to do that. Look at that guy's abs. What's he doing? I'm going to do that. So that's how workouts happen. And that's not how the body works. If you look at those guys, most of those guys were born with those abs, and born with those arms, and they learned how to make them better. But to do it internally, that's a whole other thing. So the body is not used in the terms isotonic and isometric. Isotonic means the muscle maintains the same tone, but it shortens. It changes shape. Isometric means it maintains a tone that doesn't shorten in length. Think about how we use our core. If I didn't do a sit-up in a gym, I would never do a sit-up in my life. It's not something we do. Do we ever do side bends, crunches, put 50-pound weights on our chest? No. Is there a sport where we all lay on the ground and bend in half? No. Why in the hell are all of us so great at doing sit-ups and crunches? It's wrong. I'm telling you, it's just wrong. Here's how we use the core. We use it isometrically. What the core does, remember, protect. That's isometric. I'm not fixing this. It needs to be toned. And creating a perfect posture, if you had to think about how I'm going to have to flex this right cervical muscle to hold that curve, you couldn't possibly do that. That's done isometrically on a level below your subconscious level. So the way to train it properly, God made us so we can move efficiently and gracefully through gravity, through space against gravity. Just like a dog, just like a gazelle, perfect. And God made us just a little bit better. So we should be more graceful, more efficient, more perfect. And the only way to train the body, here it goes, is to move it efficiently and gracefully through space. We challenge it in the way it was designed to perform. And that improves the functionality. Moving it with isometric contraction gracefully through space against gravity. That's why we get such rapid results with such a limited time investment. You could spend an hour doing core work in the gym. It won't touch my 10 minutes, and we want our time back. Hour and a half workouts are old, no much to do anymore. You got 10 minutes and you can wear those clothes.
Yeah.
The excuse of not going to the gym, the excuses we use not to be in shape, we took them away.
Well, the powerful thing is the effectiveness of that 10 minutes. I can't. So you said it. I mean, my daughters and son-in-laws and different friends and stuff love to work out. So going and working out and trying to stay in shape, especially once I got into my 50s, was something that was going to take commitment and usually a lot of time.
Yeah.
But the other thing is running businesses and having people who count on you, and teams that take a lot of time as well. You don't have as much time.
Right.
But the other thing, though, is you don't want to lose the effectiveness. And so the quick reality that I realized for myself is I can't do enough planks. I can't do enough crunches or enough even dips and different things to affect my core, leg lifts or anything that I can do in 10 minutes on this, because I can't hold a plank from behind. I can't hold a plank from the side and fire everything that fires systematically and simultaneously, coordinated fashion, where the brain finds out proprioception, where it finds out where I am in time and space. One of the things that I learned personally on the machine is many times I'll ride the machine with my eyes closed, because the proprioception and where I'm at and I've just listen and kind of feel what's going on in my body. And it's such a powerful tool, because what I say that we do, and one thing I'd like you to talk about, if you would, one thing that I know for my life personally, for a lot of these different people that I talk to across the country now and across the world, is bringing that body back to center. And I think even when I close my eyes and I ride the machine and try to experience the 10-minute session, one thing that I realize is I feel like physically, but I also feel like mentally and neurologically, I'm bringing myself back to center. I'm eliminating back pain in many cases because I was off traveling and, my posture wasn't great on the plane or whatever is going on in life. I played a little more golf than I played recently. And so my back's, I'm favoring one side over the other. All those things come into play. But what it does, and I know what it did for my wife, and I know what it's done for several scoliosis patients and stuff, is just bring that body back to center. And in bringing that body back to center, there's so many things that it affects, because that's our central nervous system. That is our spine. That is our lifeline. And I think that's powerful to learn, that it goes way beyond the fact of me getting a six-pack in my 50s, which is great. That's a byproduct.
That's right. Yeah,
That's a byproduct.
That's not a bad side
That's not
effect.
a bad side effect.
No, losing 10 pounds.
It's a better side effect than some of the commercials I hear on television.
We don't need to whisper. We don't need to whisper our side effect.
But this is a powerful side effect. But at the same time, the more important fact is that piece of center. Everybody talks about life coming, if I could just be center again. And I feel like that is one thing that we don't always talk about with the AllCore, that it brings us back to center.
And that's, and in the word center, I think what we're really saying is back to whole and back to balance. And what balance really, and that's a perfect term, because what balance literally means is we can take our center of gravity and maintain it and control it over our foundation. Wherever that center of gravity is, we can control it over our foundation. That's what balance is. So bringing ourselves back to center, what we're doing is maintaining control of our center of gravity. It is our source of power, and to be able to maintain control of that is huge. And the next thing, balance, from balance goes coordination. So balance is maintaining that center and knowing where it is, shutting your eyes and knowing where you are in space, that awareness of your surroundings, that's huge. And then we become coordinated because to maintain it, we're having to fire all the muscles in our core simultaneous, harmoniously in a way that can maintain that balance. And so we develop the ability to be balanced. And if you don't do it on purpose, it doesn't happen. You know, we see gymnasts, they're balanced. Look what they do to be balanced. The swimming pool divers, perfectly balanced. Swimmer athletes are perfectly balanced, but look what they have to do to get to that balance phase. We're all not going to do that. You know, we all need to be brought back to center too.
Yeah.
But if we give, for us, if we give 30 minutes a week, 30 minutes a week, don't hit that snooze one more time. It's not an investment of time. You have to know that it can do it in 10 minutes. It can. You have to have the faith that it does this. And the nice thing about the AllCore, and anybody that's ever ridden it can say this, and what makes it so easy to come back the next time is because you feel better after the first time. You know, a lot of times you'll go somewhere and you start a program, hey, in 6 weeks, you'll be ABCD. You know, after 3 weeks, I'm tired of waiting on 6 weeks. But in one visit, that's huge. You mentioned something earlier that I want to kind of extrapolate on a little bit. The balance issue, back to regular workouts, for instance, if we went to the gym right now and we wanted to work the muscles that the AllCore can work, and we're going to devote as much time, we have all day. So we're going to list all the muscles and what we want to do. What the human, most people go to the gym, what they do is they take the body and they make it a square, a box. And I want to make sure that we make sure that that's not what the body is. But by making it a box, now it's got 4 sides. In our head, those are 4 distinct exercises we're going to do for our core. All right. I mean, that's not a bad thought.
Right.
But like I've mentioned before, the human body is a 360-degree machine. So we're not a rook on a chessboard. We don't just go this way and this way. We go in every direction and we go powerfully. So it needs to be trained in every direction, but that's not what we do. So we go to the gym. And unfortunately, if you're like 95% of the people on the planet, and it's sad to say, but when a man goes to the gym, he'll start with the bench press, he'll go to the curls, and by the time he's so tired that he really wants to go home, now I'm going to go do my core. And that's how we prioritize it. It's the last thing we do, and it's the one that we say, I'll do that next time. And so it really gets left out of the system, unfortunately. But if we were to do it, we'd have to look at least of those 4 squares. So we go and say, what am I going to do for this? Okay, what does this do? It bends like this. Okay, so we're going to do crunches. They invent the crunch machine. How do we use it? 4 sets of 15. 4 sets of 15, even if you're quick, it's 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes. I don't care how, I mean, you got to be rolling to get it in that time. Well, now you've done this. What, that? Now I got to do something for my side. But here's what we did on the crunch machine. We looked at this stack of plates, and it went A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and we were at, I think H looks good for me today. What's H? Beats the hell out of me. It's not what G, it's H. I want to do as many as I can. I don't know what H is, but anyway, I do as many as I can. So I took a weight and moved it. And then I said, why don't I do something for my love handles over here? What am I going to do? I walk over to the dumbbell rack, grab 2 20-pound dumbbells, start doing side bends. Everybody's doing side bends. Nobody came up to me and said, Scott, why did you pick 20-pound dumbbells and not 25? There was no reason at all. Why didn't you pick 50s, 10s? Was those side bends equal to G over there on the crunch machine? Probably not, probably not. Then what I got left to do now, my low back. How am I going to train my low back? Well, the world has come up with deadlifts. Are you kidding me? That says, hurt me, please. But that's what we go do. We go do deadlifts. If we only devoted a minimum amount of time to those 3 movements, we're a half hour in. And we spent a half hour, possibly sweated quite a bit, to develop a horribly unbalanced core. Shame on us. We even tried. We took an isometric muscle that has a 360 degrees of potentiality, picked 4 degrees, just 4 of the 360, and challenged it in an imbalanced fashion. And then wondered why our back hurts. I did everything. I find it ludicrous. I find it, how did this happen to us? But we generated, the trainer thinks that his trainer told him, and it goes on and on and on and on until we sit back and realize we're not a square box. We're designed by God to be the best animal on the planet, and we must assume that we are. So treat it that way and train it that way. And I think that's what we've done. And that's why we get those results in so many spaces with so many people. And it's, you mentioned it earlier, the mother, the postpartum mother, the people, the meeting you where you are could not be more real. When we do our demonstrations and 20 people get in a line to experience that, there's 20 individuals that not one of them are in the same boat. In 10 minutes, they can all get in that same boat right there. And that's what's different. It doesn't matter who you were. Now you're an AllCore person. And now we're going to change a lot.
That's one thing. I'm glad you went back to meeting everybody where they are, because as you walk through all of these different exercises and different weights that you find in the gym, many people that might be listening to this, or even some of the people here, the guys are just like, wait a minute, what did he just say? Because they're not used to necessarily going in the gym and doing that type of even
those are, yeah,
workout and stuff. And I know we know what we're talking about, but here's the reality. And I love the fact that one thing I think that's broken in many places in our medical world today and the institution today is, in many cases, we walk into a medical center and everybody's treated as one size fits all.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing that I love about the AllCore is it is one machine, but it's one machine that does fit all because it's your body against gravity and time and space. And we put you in to the machine and we put you in an environment where, whether you've gone through a lot of things in your life and you're 300 pounds and you feel like you're overweight and you can't really do something because, whatever, you had some sickness that put you into that place, or whether you're an elite tennis star who has got core like crazy from, just going through the programs that they go through, we can meet both of those, people
Back to back.
and we can meet,
Really?
the beautiful thing, we can meet a 15-year-old athlete and help balance that young 15-year-old athlete who dreams about being a star. But we can also meet with that 15-year-old's grandfather who's in his mid-80s, who's struggling getting up out of a chair.
Exactly.
And we can help reactivate the muscles of that 85-year-old after his grandson gets off, where we're activating and balancing the 15-year-old. That's what's so beautiful about
What a broad range there.
And
to be able to do that.
just a powerful thing that one machine can be tailored, so to speak, to your body type, your body capability, your body that's broken in some ways.
Right.
And we can still be able to help with creating an environment for there to be the positive change in every scenario. And that's one of the things that's beautiful to me about this creation that I feel like God brought into your life in a hard way.
I know God brought in
suffering.
Hey, it's funny to say that. I guess I wasn't listening. We just kept banging me until it sunk in. I'm glad I finally got it. I might not be able to walk after that last one, but it was, I agree. It's the broad range and being able to touch everybody's lives that allows us to do that line of people that we know we can help, those, and why we can help them. And I wanted, you brought this up and we've touched around and tapped around it. And I think we kind of maybe get into a little bit more detail, and maybe not everybody will want to hear this or even want to know this, but there's a reason that this works as well as it does. And it works on an anatomical, neurological, cellular level.
Yeah.
And, the doctors that are listening may know this, but sometimes you need to be reminded. And I'm not going to get in depth. And the people that aren't doctors, I'm going to throw some words up here, but you don't need to know those. You'll understand the point. So let me just tell you how your body works a little bit and why the AllCore is so much better than what we're currently doing. And we're going to start with just the proprioception and the body's sensors. Remember, we were a lump of flesh and now we're walking around and talking. And the reason we can do that is because our body is packed full of sensors. And I don't mean just packed full. I mean slam packed as many sensors as you can put into a body. In the tiniest little tiny piece of skin, there are so many sensors in that piece of skin. Think about it. You go out into the woods, you're camping, you look down at your leg because you know there's something crawling on your leg and you can't even see it. And there it is. And you realize what kind of sensation this masterful machine can do to pick that up? It's amazing. And so, in every one of those little spots on our skin, there's half a dozen different sensors. This one's for pressure, and this one's for discriminative touch, and this one's for vibration, and this is for pain and warmth, but they're packed in there everywhere. So and here's what those nerves are for. Picture the information coming in. Every square millimeter is packed full of sensors that have information, sending all that information to the brain. Do you think the brain could pay attention to all that? There's no way it can take in all that information and do anything with it. So what does the brain do? It takes it all in and now only pays attention to the change. It's the change. So when that bug landed there, if it didn't walk, you didn't feel it. It was the change that you notice. You drive down the highway, the whole world is green. You saw the red tree. You saw that. And what happened? Your body responds to a change. All those sensors wake up and go through the nervous system and talk to the brain when there's a change, because a change means we could die. Pay attention. So that's what the body does. So all those sensors are packed in there. So let's take a regular exercise. And I'm not knocking regular exercise. We need to do it. But what I'm showing is here's the sensation you experience with a regular exercise. And here's what we do with the AllCore. Let's take a bench press. And maybe some of you don't know what a bench press is. But what you do is you lay on a bench and you push a weight off your chest. Okay, you're laying on a bench, push the weight off your chest. Does your foot change on a bench press? Nope. Does your knee change? Does your eyes change? Does anything change on a bench press but this? Not really. So all those millions of sensors that we have, what are they doing? They're sleeping. And they can basically, truly fall asleep. How about a plank? Great isometric exercise for the core. All those sensors are sleeping. You don't move anything on a plank. You're just there. You can fall asleep in a plank. The AllCore360. Every single sensor in every square millimeter on our skin, in every joint, in every place on the body has to pay attention because every second it's somewhere else. And it needs to know that. And what the body thinks it's doing, not Scott. The body thinks it's doing, it's tumbling off a cliff. And it doesn't know what to do. So it kicks on neuroplasticity. By God, it needs to survive. It doesn't care if it's got a six-pack. I got to make sure I don't die. And when that comes on, the body, the miracle of the body shows. That's what it did for Jenny. That's what it did for John. That's what it does when you kick on the miracle of the body's survival. God made us perfect. And we dumbed that down. Let the body be what God gave us and it'll really respond. And we're doing it right.
Yeah.
We really are doing it right.
Well, I'm excited to be on this journey together.
I couldn't be happier.
I continue to thank God every day for bringing our paths together and allowing us to be on this journey together and to build this company, and now building a team that also has the same passion and the same faith. We have had great meetings with our teams to handpick people who we know, as you know,
Good hearts.
believe in the mission of changing lives first, and believe that we will build a solid company based on how many lives we can affect and based on how many lives that we can change. And that's our mission, and that's our goal, and that's at least a huge percentage of our time in our team meetings are just spent on that. And we take time to tell a lot of stories that because we can't catch them all.
Yeah,
And it's kind of funny because sometimes we one of the main phrases we hear is, "Have you heard?"
yeah.
No, have you heard what happened in Canada? Have you heard what happened in Budapest? Have you heard what happened in London or in New York or Chicago or all over the country now and all over the world? And so it's super exciting, and I can't wait to share many more stories together, change lives, and I'm just thankful that we're able to communicate some of the story again to some of the newer members of our team, but also just maybe a few other people that can
Well, you know,
set the vision and the mission, and I'm excited.
I think and please allow me to thank you again for putting this team together, because when I was starting out on this journey, I'm sure it was my ego because I just thought I could do it alone. I just thought, who knew it more than me? Who could usher and steward this more than I? And I'm just telling you, I was horribly wrong. And if you're listening and you're wanting to build a business or you're an entrepreneur, keep your idea. Start with a team. Don't think you don't need help. I mean, you're not as tough as you think you are. And when you came on board and you brought this team together, we didn't go from, here to here, went from here to here. And that was just the step to there. So that's what it takes. It takes a team of these committed individuals that you've been able to put together that not only are going to protect our dream, they're going to protect the business.
Yeah,
And we're going to be here forever, my dear friend. We're not going anywhere.
exactly. I appreciate sharing again and sharing time again with the group here and the newest members of our team, and can't wait to continue to tell more and more stories as we go, but not forget the history and where we came from, and continue our journey and add to the story
As we go.
So-
It's really been a pleasure. Love you. No, I love you.